All right. Well, when we got started with this whole thing, we never promised to be doing this on a regular basis, and that has held true. But now Sean and I are back with another episode of Expected by Whom, and we're really excited to be joined by our guest. And Sean, I'll actually turn it over to you to introduce Willie here because very excited to have Willie on today.
Yeah, really excited to be back and doing this with you, Prashanth. And first of all, really excited for us to kind of kick it back off again with Willie here. For those, if you go and look at Willie's coaching history, I think it's been from to you've coached into Japan, you've coached Olympic teams, you've now medicine hat a couple NHL teams. But I know Willie super well from when he was coaching the Texas Stars and won a championship down there, and so. Kind of one of those super excited to have you on, Willie, and we'll talk a little bit about that team, but we'll talk about some things that you've been up to as well recently, and some of those. I see some newspapers in the background celebrating some other championships. So we'll talk about some other stuff too beyond just glory days of the Texas Stars 2014 Calder Cup team.
Sounds good.
So I wanted to that's kind of where I wanted to just kind of you're in Medicine Hat now. This is your, so I believe, second stint in Medicine Hat, team that you've had the history with before. And I kind of want to start in the present day. You guys are a defending WHL champion. It's a team that you guys went to the Memorial Cup last year. You've got a team right now that's really fun to watch. You got a defenseman with 44 goals, I think, right now, which is getting close. You got a pair of twin brothers that are right up there in the WHL scoring race, and I just kind of wanted to start right there with in Medicine Hat, obviously, with what you've been building with this team and last year. And I just wanted to give you a chance to open there and just talk about this team and this group that you've been working with this year and what you've been building off from last year, just to start us off.
Well, thanks, Sean. Yeah, yeah, we had a good run last year. We went to the championships, and then we lost. McKenna, Lindstrom, and Richie all went to college. So this year was a little bit unknown coming in, but we got a great group of guys, and I always talk about how you don't really know what you have until you get into January, February. The start of the year, we had lots of new guys, young guys, so we weren't maybe right where we needed to be. Um, but with the Rucks, yeah, they're look like they might even sneak into the first round. They're leading all the CHL in scoring. Pretty exceptional, and they're really a little bit like the twins, Hank and Danny in Vancouver that I had a chance to coach. It's amazing how they read off each other. Then on the back end, I got Pickford and Wu. Wu set a record for points for our franchise. Pickford's chasing the league record for goals. Both guys have missed quite a bit of a time this year. They'll probably miss 10, 12 games, which is, certainly set them back. But they're both elite. So, I'm really lucky. I've got a great staff, just like I did with Austin. You win with the people around you, like that's always the key to winning. I had great players in Austin, and I've got a really good group of players here as well. You certainly have a way of finding those elite players to end up on your roster the last few years here. So I think there's something to be said about the coaching group and what the job you guys have done in Medicine Hat. I want to touch a little bit on what you mentioned earlier with having kind of the three big guys leaving for the NCAA. And we've seen in the last few years this CHL to NCAA pathway open up a little bit more. And as someone who has coached in the WHL, coached in the AHL, coached at the NHL level, what do you think about this in terms of a development pathway for players, and kind of how are you prepping these guys to make sure that they maximize their future talents all the way up to the next level for a lot of guys that you have that have, high NHL aspirations? Yeah, that's a good question. I've always thought really highly of the NCAA, and that was even when we recruited directly against it. I've got a few degrees, so education's important to me. Um, and I've always really respected the NCAA programs. Saying that, my job is to make our program better for development. And at a young age, lots of times, it is better because it's just like us bringing in young guys. If you're not at the level, then it's not good to be there. So I think right now it's we I think we're I think we're better with younger guys for sure. Like you've got to be able to play your game, whatever level you go to. Um, and that's still the way it is. So we get a lot, we'll probably get more of the 16, 17-year olds. We may lose guys at 18, 19, and I'm okay with that. If I've got a guy with my program and he decides to go NCAA, then good. If my program, if he doesn't feel he'll develop the most with us, then he should go to a different program. Saying that, like, I really don't try to develop guys for the NCAA. I try to develop guys for the NHL. Like that's where I'm pushing my guys to go, and I'm certainly excited for them if they go the NCAA route. But I really, really try to push guys to go to to prepare them for the NHL route.
Is when it comes to, obviously it's we're all figuring out the ins and outs of this, because this was a rule before, where before this year it never would have been allowed. And I was actually last weekend, I was at the Michigan State semifinal, and I saw the guy played for you, Caden, playing in that game. And so I guess kind of one of the things that's, is there anything about kind of the process, I don't know, maybe talking to guys you played with or talking to young guys, has there been anything about all of this, now that the floodgates kind of open, that surprised you, or anything like that that maybe you didn't expect once kind of they opened it up from the NCAA side of things?
Not really, because I had a chance to coach in at CIS, so college in Canada first. So I knew how good the college hockey was. Like I knew the level of college players. Uh, so that didn't surprise me. I knew guys going in were going to have trouble. Like you could be a great player at 18, but if you're playing against guys 23, 24, you're going to have trouble with that, just size and strength wise. So um, I wasn't surprised that there's guys that have gone down there and haven't done as well as people thought they would. That's not a surprise. Um, uh, but saying that, I think uh, it's been good too. And I'll have to talk to some of the guys that went down there and to see what they felt about their experience, good or bad. Um, like I said, they're good programs. Like you got great training facilities. There's lots of good things with it. So it'll be interesting when the year's done for everybody to kind of take a look at it and look at the plus and minuses and just kind of where it goes from there. But it's great for the players. It's good for players to have choices. Like that's like before they didn't have choices. Now it's up to each program to make their program good enough that they don't leave.
I wanted to go, so this is something that you were, everyone raved about this when you worked with the Stars, and I got to cover you, and obviously it's been one of your strengths in your career. But everyone I've talked to has talked about your approach with younger players and building them up into roles and everything. And I know that's something that obviously in your coaching career it's probably evolved a little bit with location and era and everything like that. But I just kind of wanted to open it up to that, of when you look at your role as a coach and building up younger players and getting them to the next level, and you talked about helping them with their development. How has your approach kind of look like now, and how has that kind of evolved as you've worked with various stages of players over the years now?
Well, I remember when I first started, I had a guy that played in the NHL for a while, and he came in and he wanted to work with me. I said, okay. And I said, okay, we're going to do this with the team. And he said, well, what do you think the players will think? And I just kind of ignored him. And then I said it again. I said, this is what we're going to do. Maybe 2 weeks later. And finally, the third time he said it, I said, well, I really don't care. Like, I don't care what they think. And But after I said that, I learned from that. And I was like, as soon as I said it, I thought, I'm wrong. I have to care what they think. Like it's crazy for me not to care and just kind of throw it at them. So that was a big change for me on my approach. And it was like, okay, listen to the players, listen where they're at. Like they train all summer. They want to win just as bad as I want to win. So I want to hear what they have to say. And I've always talked to them. I said it doesn't have to be my page, but we always have to be on the same page. Whatever page we decide, it has to be the same one. So, I think I've always kind of had that approach with them going in. Um, and it wa- and at the same time though, March Madness is coming, and I don't know if you ever watched Jimmy Valvano a long time at 30 for 30, but the one thing he talked about is the greatest gift his father ever gave him. And the greatest gift he talked about was believing in him. And I think that's the same as a coach. Like, I talked to these Navy SEALs and they talked about, how they pick their man and they talk about how some guys, you put in a chokehold and they tap out and they're 30 seconds from going under. And he said other guys go right under. And it's how do you get the guy that's tapping out to go right under? Because that's the kind of guy you want. And it's giving them comfort to be uncomfortable. It's making them believe that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be someplace they don't know, that they can get out of it. They have the resources inside them. So it's to teach them they got lots of stuff inside them. And it's just to give the confidence, I think, to go after it.
Along those lines, earlier you kind of referenced degrees in education. And one of the things we like to highlight on this show, at least, is kind of diverse backgrounds that bring people into hockey. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about your background in education. And I believe you've also got a master's in social work as well, and kind of the role that those kind of experiences or degrees have played in how you shape young players, particularly in today's era, with so many different societal pressures and community challenges that exist. Very curious to hear your thoughts on how that impacts your development.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it starts way before with your parents and the values they set. And I was really lucky. Like I grew up on a farm, and the thing you learned on the farm is that you can work as hard as you want, and then a hailstorm could come in and wipe it out, and you'd have nothing. But if you didn't work hard to get it in the ground, then you weren't going to have anything anyway. So what you learned is to work hard, and whatever happens, happens, and you just have to live with it. So that was kind of the beginning part that helped me whenever I went through hockey. Like you could do everything you wanted, and you could get a bad call, a bad break. Well, that's just the way it goes. So there's nothing you can do about it. With my education, I always thought that you want to have choices in life, and education gives you choices. So I always thought that was important to get choices. I was going to go in as a counselor or a psychologist. I ended up going through social work because I could do counseling through that if I wanted. So that was kind of the way I chose to go. But I never ever ended up doing it anyways. Like I worked on crisis centers, though. I worked on the big distress lines, suicide distress lines, and things like that. Um, and I have a teaching degree, but teaching was way too hard. Like you have to prepare, you have to mark. Like I soon discovered that was going to be too hard for me, so I had to go to something else. But you pick things up, and it's funny. You pick them up, and you don't really know where they came from. They just become part of you. And it's just who you are, and who knows where you got them from. So, but education certainly was a big part for me.
When did you, I probably asked you this before, but when did you know that you were going to be a coaching lifer, right? Like there's the spots where you mentioned that and you kind of, but then you go through different opportunities. Was there ever a spot when you look back where you're like, okay, this is coaching is the path that I'm going to stick with? Like when you look back at your kind of career that way?
Well, it's funny because I never would have gone into coaching if I didn't have the farm to fall back on, because coaching is pretty risky. And, if you raise a family, you could change so quick. So I didn't probably have the courage to go right into coaching. And I had no intentions. When I went to university, I applied at 3 different universities for 3 different degree programs. So I was in engineering, I was in accounting, I was in education. Um, but I had a coach at the University of Saskatchewan, Dave King. And Dave King was the guy that made me think about coaching. We were 3-21 the year before he came in. After he came in, and we went to the national finals 3 years in a row. And it was kind of like, holy, like there is something to coaching. There's things there. And he was the one that made me think about it. So I didn't start thinking about coaching until I was 25, 26. And then it's just something I liked working with the guys. And, one thing that happened in Van when I got hired in Van, at my press conference, and it wasn't totally true, but I said, because one of my guys asked me, what was your biggest challenge in coaching? And I never thought about it till after. But when I went to Van, I said, when I met my wife, I told her I'd be an NHL coach, and I didn't do that. But for that program, I told her I was going to be an NHL coach. But what I didn't tell her was it was going to take me 25 years. And The 25 years part is you have to love what you're doing. If you're ever in that and you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to last. So I've been really fortunate. I've never come to work. I've always got to come and coach and be with guys that want to get better. So I've been really, really fortunate. And the good people I've worked with in my career, like, oh, no, people just don't get that fortunate to work with that kind of people.
Yeah, I mean, along those lines, you mentioned Dave King and obviously the number of years you've been able to spend in coaching. I'm curious as to who really been like the biggest influences on your coaching style and how that's really evolved over the years. I know you've had opportunities to coach in so many different settings along so many tremendous coaches. Very curious, like who's had the biggest influence on how you approach the game?
Well, I probably think Dave King because that was the place I started. Dave King loved to win. Like he loved to win. So he was the guy that first kind of started me. Terry Johnson was the guy that kind of taught me you got to listen to your players, like, what they're saying. Um, so those two guys had a really big influence, but I've had lots of guys like, Andy Murray was a good role model. You know, Claire Drake, Billy Moore's guys that you guys won't know, but they were unbelievable coaches. Um, Wayne Fleming was an NHL coach that people don't know. He could have been a head coach in the NHL. Like he passed away early, but I've had so many really good people, and I've got to watch like whenever anybody wins. Quenville was the guy, back when I was going. Like you watch when people win because you don't get lucky to win. It's not like it just happened. And one thing that's so exciting is with Glenn Gullickson in Dallas. I've had the chance to work with Glenn's unbelievable. Like I learned a lot from Glenn. Um, but he's an unbelievable coach and what he does, like it's incredible. So I've had the opportunity to watch lots of guys and kind of steal things from them.
It's fitting that you bring up Glenn because I was actually talking to him a couple of weeks back about his first season here in Dallas. I guess technically third season in Dallas, but first back here right after the first time around. Uh, he was telling me kind of in his growth as a coach, one of the things that he realized from the first time around in Dallas to the second time is he had to be at the NHL level, he had to take a kind of the bigger picture view, right? Like he had to be a little bit better at sharing responsibilities with assistants, better at kind of being able to and so obviously the higher you go up, the more assistants and staff you get and everything like that. But as a coach, as you've kind of learned the connection of big picture versus the micro with the guys. What's kind of the balance you've learned through your career on that of how you connect with guys individually and then keep the big picture all at the same time?
That's a challenge, but it's interesting you bring that up because I run the dual role here. I'm general manager and I'm the head coach. And the head coach is a lot more focused for the year. The general manager is more of a big picture guy. And for me, the head coach wins out more often than the general manager because I'm pretty focused on every year. Like I talked about Dave King liking to win. I got like to win. Like, so I'm more caught into that. So I think that's a trap probably that coaches get into a little bit. Maybe Gully alluded to it. I don't know with him. Like, I just know he's a very good coach. But I think, and I'll tell our team every year, I'll go, and I might have said it already here. I won't know what we have till February, January, February, because you have to develop your players. Like the only way we win is if we develop. Like we can't win if we don't develop. So you have to give guys opportunities that maybe they aren't good enough because they have to grow. Because how do you grow? Well, you got to be uncomfortable. You got to get in situations that maybe you weren't perfect at, but that's coaching them through it and giving them confidence that they can get through it. So I think it's just all the years I've coached that I've learned that, you know, it takes time, like, especially in junior. Like the NHL guys, you tell them once, they pretty well have it, maybe twice. Junior guys, you got to give them 5 times at least before they're going to get it. So it's a little different, but it's all the same as all those guys want to be successful and they want to win and they want to find ways to win. So it's you're lucky to be able to work in that environment.
What's I'm curious now because one of the things the trend and the line we hear right now is guys arrive at a more skilled, better skaters that like the physical tools are better or not better are more well prepared at 17, 18, 19 than they've ever been before. We hear and I've heard you speak to NHL coaches sometimes about guys who there's less of the physical tool coaching and more of the mental and the game side of things. And as someone what's it like now with at the WHL level when you're getting guys and you mentioned they're working hard all summer and everything like that? Obviously, there's individual skill development, but what's kind of the line as that's kind of gone into teaching the game and teaching the game to a level where you got guys who can skate well, you got guys who can stick handle. They've had skills coaches since they were 6 years old. What's that evolution been like?
Yeah, so for us, we our three things that we talk about, our purpose and what we do is to win a championship, sign a pro contract, and develop community leaders. So those are the three things that we really push in our program. And it's interesting. I have a SEAL out of Dallas. Clint Bruce is his name, and he lives in Dallas. And he goes on with us every once in a while. He'll go on a Zoom call with us, and he's incredible. Like he he talks for 50 minutes, and I go through it, and I'm taking like 10 pages of notes on it. Like everything, it's so incredible, the lessons you can learn at different areas. And we're big on that. We're big on developing leaders because you win with your leaders. And you want your culture to continue. You want it to keep going. So that's what you try to do. You try to build it and you keep it going. But it's learning from people like that have gone through and experienced things that can make a big difference. And the one thing that the junior guys don't understand is when they go, like they all want points. They all think, I got to get points. I got to get all these points. But when you're in the NHL and your fourth line goes out, you don't want them to get scored on. If they score, it's a bonus. So guys have to learn to defend. And most young players coming through don't know how to defend. They don't realize how important it is. And that's the only way you get a chance at the NHL level. The very few come out and are going to be top 3 forwards or top 2 defensemen. Like not many guys are that good to get that luxury. So you more of the thing you got to teach is the defending side of it. And, the structure side of it. Like they've been so good that they've never really had to pay attention to structure because they've been the best. Well, there's lots of good guys in the NHL. So they have to learn that you've got to have structure. You've got to have attention to detail.
Yeah, so along those lines, I want to bring us back to present day and what you've done in Medicine Hat. As Sean mentioned kind of at the top of the show, defending WHL champions, off to another record-setting year again here. I want to talk a little bit about how have you built up the program, in Medicine Hat as the general manager and coach, the philosophies you've really instilled, and then kind of also tying in some of the conversation we had about how you've had to shift how you identify players and really modeling after now coaching that 15, 16, 17-year-old and potentially losing the 18 and 19. How have you really adopted or shaped the organization to be so successful in present day hockey in the WHL?
I surround myself with good people. I just have good people around me. Like really, like, and I hired my son for not for this team, but for a different team. And the reason I hired him is because I knew he treated people right. And anybody that's in our program, they have to be more important as people than hockey players. Like I want guys that care about their players. It's funny how one time I wasn't that guy, but that's who I am. Like I want people that care about their players. So that's the first thing is you get the right people that care about the right things. You also you get the people that are super competitive. Like they're super competitive and they want to win. Because if you want to, like I talk to our guys and our team, if you want to be, if you can accept being average, you'll be average. Like there's no question. If you can accept not winning a championship, you won't win a championship. So that's kind of the building of the culture. And it's rewarding the right thing too. Like Plato had a quote about what you reward is what you get. So if you reward the right things, that's what you'll end up with. If the right things happen and you don't reward them, you won't end up with it. So we value hard work. We value family. We value commitment. So those are things we value. So I think it gets installed in our players. And then we do the leadership stuff that I hope can carry on. But it's a process. Every year is a process. But I've been lucky. Oasis Weisblatt, He's in the American League now. He'll get to the NHL eventually. He was an unbelievable leader, cared about his guys. I got picked for this year, the guy that's got his 44 goals. He's hard, like really hard, but he plays for his guys. So I've had good guys to kind of lead the way.
The people side of it, obviously, I know that's so important to you. I also want to go a little bit, not to take away the people side, but I'm curious of one of the things that in your coaching career you've got now. Probably the first time around in medicine hat, you didn't have all the data and the analytics and all of the other information you got. And so I'm curious, and one of the things, Prashanth, that I really like to dive in on this show is how you use those additional tools that have been kind of added to a coach's toolbox in the past, in the past 5 to 10 years. So like when you look at that, and when you look at kind of having that advanced data on what a player's doing, we don't have just the goals and assists. We have so much more, and you have the other stuff. How do you use that as a tool, and how much do players want you to use that with a group of players that have grown up with, they're used to a little bit more of that information?
It's interesting because I had what I call my success factors way before I went to Dallas. I had 7 things that I felt if we did this every night, we would be successful. And that's what your analytics you want to do. You want to be able to find out what do we do that makes us successful? What correlates? Does this correlate? Does that correlate? So you want to find out whatever correlates. And so we've always had our success factors, 7 things. We measure guys on all these categories. So we basically do our own inside the big picture. But we also have a company that all the Western League has it, and it's nice to have that company because it's totally independent. Like we kind of look through rose-colored glasses when we watch our team, so it's nice to have an independent version as well, and then you can kind of check both of them out and see where they fit. But for sure, there's a lot. There's the one problem with analytics is there's too much information. Like you got to be way smarter than me because I can't process all that information. So it's having people that can cut it down for you so you get the stuff that you really need. But there's a big, if you know how to use it, there's so much information in there that you don't realize. Like there's tons of stuff in there that you don't even know until you get into the analytics. You don't know which line, this line plays better against that line, or this line combination is better than that combination. Or, like we talk about the second period. If you can get out of the second period with a lead, your chances are like 75% to win. Like just so is the last 5 minutes of the game more important than the last 5 minutes of the second period? Well, analytics says maybe, but that last 5 of the second is pretty important.
On that note, just kind of a quick follow-up to that, is it something that to the kids, I don't know if we're using the right term or not, but they're all teenagers that you're dealing with. Is it something where you're talking about, you're talking about all that information, is it something that they kind of have a base understanding of a little bit more so? Because I remember I've talked to NHL guys where it kind of depends on when they entered the league. Some guys know what it is, and then there's other guys who have maybe been in the league for a little bit who are it looks like voodoo. So I'm curious to hear your thought.
Well, I think every coach is different, so how much they use, and it also at the junior level, it's your access to the information. We don't have the access like the NHL guys do, so it's a little easier. I am honestly really lucky. My son is my video guy, and he's absolutely incredible. Like he is so smart. Like we code. I don't know if he codes 70 different things, categories. Like after every period, I got entries, exits, turnovers. I got so much stuff. And and that's your miniature analytics is right there with video. And then we have it where you can flip the axes and then all of a sudden so I can take any player and look at every scoring chance they're on the ice for, against, everything just with them. And that stuff is amazing, but it's not categorical either right now. Like they don't have it into, like as a team, but we have it individually, and that's a start. So I think our guys know that NHL coaches and GMs get to see everything they do, everything. So they just have to be aware of that.
I want to take you off the ice. You talked about, obviously the farm was always the fallback if needed. You also got the. Do you still have the golf course? First of all, I know you and I have talked. You and I have done some phone conversation. You and I have had talked on the phone before. Where I think you've been on the golf course in March, and there's still been sheets of ice on there. So give me the golf course update. And have you been able to play yet on it?
Oh, we're ways away. That was probably the year I went out thinking I was playing, and there's 3 feet of snow on it. Like, and we're only like 90 minutes away,
Yeah.
and it had been guys were golfing here for 4 weeks, longer than that. So I thought, oh, I'll take my clubs and I'll go out to my course and golf. I didn't phone anybody. There was not one spot where it was I could play on it because just a different elevation. It's up the hills a little bit. So, but anyways, yeah, it's great. Like it's been such a good place, and it's great for me to relax and do things in the summer. But it's kind of like everything else. I get everybody else to do the work. I just kind of show up and then ride along. So, but it's been unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, Willie, I really appreciate the time coming on here. I really appreciate you taking the time of your day. You're busy. I know playoffs are getting going right around the corner here for you guys, and you got a hopefully a long run there. So I really appreciate it. One thing we like to kind of just close the program out with is there anything that we've talked about today, or anything that sticks out to you that you wanted to bring up or chat about or anything? I like to flip the script and let our guest have a moment if there's anything they want to talk about.
Yeah, it would be a little bit how good things are
Yeah.
with the Stars. Like that's a good franchise. They've done a great job recruiting. Uh, Shane Turner was in there when I was there. He still stays in touch with me. Uh, Whitey's in there. Did a great job. There's so many. Jimmy Neal is incredible what he's done. Like obviously, you know, uh, and I just think it's such a good program. And it's exciting. Like they got to run at it this year, and they had for a while. So, but it's going to be good. So, I'm hoping they do well, and I appreciate you too, Sean. Like you were always great with me when I was there. So, lots of thanks to everybody in that Stars organization.
Well, as I said, I really appreciate you having on. I appreciate that if however long it's been, I don't want to go do the math. However long it's been since covering you there, that we're still able to get on and chat about this. So I will let Prashanth close us out here.
Yeah, Willie, just want to thank you very much for taking the time to join us today, and appreciate all of your insights, and best of luck in the playoffs moving forward. Hopefully, another championship's on the horizon here. And yeah, best of luck to the team, and look forward to seeing everything that you continue to do for the sport. And for Sean and I, that's expected by whom. We're happy to be back. And again, can't promise anything regular, but we're going to try.
Thanks, Prashanth. That's great of you to say that. And it's always good when people get information. So anytime you guys want to chat, give me a call.
Love it. Well, thanks so much, Willie. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
having you on.
Yeah. Take care.